Awesome. Welcome back, everyone. And thank you. It's always great to hear back from our sponsors, Vanilla by Higher Logic. Well, up next, we've got a wonderful panel discussion all about building your career trajectory. And so obviously, given my session earlier today, this is something near and dear to my heart and something we really feel passionately about, how every individual should be owning their career growth and what that looks like. So I am thrilled to welcome to the stage Krista, Nabita, Lakshima, and Cynthia as we talk about building your career trajectory. Hi, everyone.
Hi.
Hey.
Welcome back. Thrilled to have you all. Hopefully you've been following along throughout the day, but this session is so exciting for all of us. You know, as we think about our futures as individual contributors and what that might look like long term, I think it's so critical that everyone kind of take lead in owning what that looks like in their own journey. And so we are thrilled to welcome you all and really excited about today's conversation. So I will kick it over to you, Krista, to get us started.
Wonderful. Thank you so much, Christy and Dave, and welcome back from our break, everyone. So as Christy mentioned, this panel is all about career growth and really, how to build your career trajectory. And as I hope all of our audience saw earlier, Christy's keynote this morning was really about, how she got to where she is today and kind of what she's accomplished in her career and the things that got her to where she is. And as of this morning, she is our new Chief Customer Officer for Client Success. And so, it's wonderful to be able to, to be alongside her in that growth and super excited to chat with our three panelists here today about their experience and their career journeys and sharing their tips and tricks with everyone. So I'm going to go ahead and introduce our three wonderful panelists, and then we will go ahead and get started. So first I have Nabita Bakali, and Nabita is a customer success manager with Multiverse. And then we have Lakshmi Krishnan. Lakshmi is a senior customer success manager with Guidewell. And then last but certainly not least, we have Cynthia Trotta, and Cynthia is a customer success manager with Mendix. Thank you all so much. Thank you for giving us your time and your expertise today on CSM Summit. So really quickly, I'm Krista Roberts, Senior Customer Success Manager here at Client Success. And all of these panels and all these sessions are super near and dear to my heart. But this one is extra special because last year on our first summit, I actually was a panelist on a similar panel about career growth and kind of what led me to where I am today. So this is a really cool first full circle moment. Just celebrated my 1-year anniversary with the company, and to be able to moderate this panel with the three of you is fantastic. Just a reminder for our audience, if you have any questions, please be sure to drop them in the chat, and then we'll reserve the last 10 minutes or so of our time together to answer those questions as well. So we are going to go ahead and kick it off, and I'm going to start with Nabita, and I'm going to ask, how have you in your career and your time as a customer success professional, even before, how have you really taken control of your own career?
Thank you so much for asking that question. Really passionate about this one. I think it's about knowing when to leave. I think a lot of people think, you should stick with a company for a really long time because that's loyalty, that'll get you promotions, that will get you really far. But actually knowing when to leave and knowing kind of when you've added enough value to a company and you've kind of taken everything you can from a company is so much more important, because it can help you grow personally, professionally, and actually help you get kind of promotion in terms of money, titles, and all of those other things. I personally come from kind of a South Asian background. My parents are very kind of traditional in the sense of stick with the company you're with, kind of make it last. But actually what I've learned is leaving the companies I've been with, I've been able to make sure I leave on good terms and build good relationships. So when I move on as well, I've got those relationships to kind of fall back on as well in the future.
Wonderful. I love that. I love, I love, that was one thing I know when we talked, preparing for this last week that I just thought was great because, it's, definitely a cultural and generational thing to see that, you stay in a company until you retire. And, it's strange for some people, whether it is your upbringing, your culture, or just, kind of the generations to say, that leaving the company, even after 10 years, that just seems absurd. But, now that's just kind of, it's the opposite end. Like to see someone with a company for so long is typically not the norm. So like you said, to be able to really take control and say, okay, this is time for me to move on because this is what's going to be best for me. So I love sharing that personal piece and, kind of how you were able to kind of make this your own, despite kind of how things, like kind of what you saw growing up. So, Lakshmi, how about you? Like, what's, for you, what's something that you've done that's really helping you to take control of your career?
I think for me, it's knowing what you want and being consistently clear and vocal about it. So in my head, I always want to be a head of CS, VP of CS someday for some org. And I never fear saying that in any interviews that I go to, any roles that I interview for or take part in, and doing all the things that I need to do to get there. So keep evaluating yourself. Self-evaluation, knowing yourself is so important, and chart your journey based on that. It's definitely helped me get where I am. I come from a nonprofit background and I'm in customer success. So, my journey is unique, and knowing that and being able to break those barriers, I think anybody can do it if I can do it.
Yeah, absolutely. And I love that. I love, you said just not being shy about sharing what your career goals are. And I think it's that, if you put it out in the universe, you'll manifest it, and so it's just putting it out there. And that's the way to attain those goals and be successful at it. So, I love it. I love the confidence. And then again, coming from, not necessarily like just only working in customer success, having a little bit of a different background into now this area, to be able to take those skill sets and say, I still want to be a VP of customer success. And I have no doubt that that'll happen for you. So that's awesome. I love it. Cynthia, what about you? What do you have to add to the conversation on this?
I absolutely concur with that. And I'd read about, people who made it very clear that they wanted a promotion or they wanted a specific role, and somebody else who kept their nose to the grindstone and never really vocalized that. And hands down, what the story at the end of that story is. Well, I actually saw that in motion at work one time, where I saw this woman who just seemed like the leader of that department. And then I was really surprised to see somebody else promoted above her. And when I asked her if she knew any reason why that might have happened, and she said, because the other person in every single one-on-one with their manager, in repeated conversations, made it very clear what their career aspirations were. And that's something that she unfortunately learned the hard way, but we can all benefit from that lesson.
Absolutely. Yeah, no, it's a good point. Again, it kind of goes back to, kind of getting out of your comfort zone a little bit. I know it's uncomfortable for a lot of people to say that, especially if they feel that they're, years away from that big goal that they have. But like I said, vocalizing it, letting others know, that it still might be 2 or 3 steps away, but it can help you to get to that point, and be able to, to get one step closer. So, and it's definitely, that's a good lesson, good story to share, and kind of how that works out. So wonderful. So talking, that kind of goes into this next question, nicely is, mistakes. We've all kind of, I think, made some mistakes throughout our career, oftentimes kind of early in our career, and things that we've done that, have challenged us and we've learned from and been able to kind of redirect. So, let's chat a little bit about that. I'll start with you, Lakshmi, on, kind of what are some mistakes that maybe you made early in the career that you've learned from to help you to get where you are today?
I think my biggest is suffering from imposter syndrome. And I'm not going to say that I'm completely over it. I still have, bouts where I'm like, oh, is this, where I need to be, or am I really worth this? And I think, I can relate to what Nabita said. growing up South Asian, back in India, you're more grounded in the sense that you're always asked, like, what could you do better, and not praise so much about what you did. So I've never had that confidence where I feel like, oh, I can go get this no matter what. And when I moved to Silicon Valley, it was suddenly I'm surrounded by all of these people who are super educated, super smart. And then I'm like, how did I get here? Did I get here by luck? What do I do now? And then it was, slowly getting over that, prepping myself up, beefing myself up by learning more about the profession, watching other leaders, and picking things up has tremendously helped in building my confidence. And today I feel like, it's my hard work and I own it. And it's my journey is always going to be unique, and it's going to be my journey, and my success metrics will be mine, and not, I don't need to look at somebody else's success metrics to measure myself. So, doing that for yourself and actually doing that for your customers. I do that for all my customers. I tell them your journey is unique. Please don't measure yourself all the time. Benchmarking is great. Understanding about peers is good, but, don't make that the only goal.
Yeah, I love that. That's definitely, to not be scared that, you are following your own unique path, and that you don't have to fit into a certain mold. Definitely there's, some great things to, steps to follow that can kind of help you, but you don't have to go a certain way. Like, you could definitely, have your own journey, take different twists and turns that are different than other people's. And then maybe you end up in the same place or the same type of role, but everyone, has a different path to get there. So I love that. That's great. What about you, Navita? What are some things that you've learned from some mistakes that you've made throughout your career that have helped you grow today?
I'm pretty early on in my career right now. I think I've been in customer success for about 3 years, and before that I spent kind of a year in recruitment. But one of the key things I've learned kind of in the past couple of years is, like, being a yes woman is not the way forward. So when I first started, I was surrounded by, these senior execs, senior stakeholders, and I was like, I'm going to say yes to everything. Anything they ask me, I'm going to be like, yes, I'm going to take this on. You want me to do this project? I'll take it. You want me to do this side thing? I'll take it. But what that did is just burden me with so many things that I wasn't actually doing anything with any quality. It was just like everything's being done, but nothing is of great quality. And actually, senior leaders really wanted me to push back and challenge them and say, why do you want me to do this? Do you think that this is going to add value for me? And am I able to add value to this? And this is something I've been working on for the past couple of years. And for me, this is definitely a journey of kind of creating boundaries. But I would definitely recommend everyone be able to say no, because as many opportunities as we can get from saying yes, we can also lose out on opportunities if we don't start saying no.
Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely. Cynthia, what about you? What do you have?
Sure. So I'm going to go back to what Navita first said about advising people to move more quickly and not staying in a role longer. And that was definitely a lesson I wish I'd learned earlier in my career. I think I was like so pleased to be, at a big company. My parents were happy, and, all of that. And I wish I had been more self-aware to realize why I wanted to leave. And for example, one of the things I learned from it looking back was it was a very mature company and a mature industry. And I realized for me, I really wanted a much more innovative space. And ever since I made that clear to myself, I've been far more successful. And so those are some of the clues I look at. I always tell people when they ask me whether they should stay or go, if you're not learning anything, like Navita mentioned, if you're not learning anything else, then it is time to look around. So it was two elements. It was the space, the industry itself, and the company itself. Is it hyper innovative and disruptive ideally? And am I going to continue learning and growing? If those elements are there, then I'm good. But everybody needs to know what kind of pace is best for them.
Yeah, absolutely. I know I've had similar experiences in my career where it's like I've stayed somewhere just too long. I had an opportunity, or a company I worked for 4 years, almost exactly 4 years when I left. And I mean, I really think I was doing the same exact thing on my last day as I did on my first day. And it was a wonderful opportunity. It was a great learning experience. It definitely gave me some wonderful tools and things to continue to grow and develop. But there was really nothing else for me to do. There was no more growing, no more learning. It was a similar situation. There, wasn't a ton of opportunity for, for new innovations. And it was just, that's when I moved into the SaaS world, where it's like, we know SaaS technology, like all that, there's so many options. And so it's kind of where I think we see that shift from people feeling like they're staying in these companies for so long, where they're, they just, maybe they're okay with that and they're okay with doing the same thing every day. But I feel like a lot of us, especially I feel like in the customer success world, we really want to see, new ideas and innovation and that continued growth and change and things we work on with our clients. So it totally makes sense to, kind of to have that experience. And I definitely had made that mistake myself too. So looking at, mistakes and challenges and different things that we looked at as we're, growing our career and really, kind of looking at, how can we get to where we want to be, even if we don't have an end, like I want to be a VP of CS or I want to be a chief customer officer, but we know we want to continue to grow. There's a lot of different things that could help us. So I know mentorship is a huge thing that I know I'm very passionate about, as many others are in the CS community. I know that's something that has been really important to you, Cynthia. And so I'd love to hear, a little bit more about you and kind of, what role mentors have played in your career and how it's really helped you in your overall growth.
Sure. So the more I leaned on mentors over the course of my career, the happier and more successful I was. There's absolutely a correlation, lockstep. And also on the flip side, when I work with mentees, they're also happier the more they engage with me and other mentors. Now, the one thing I notice is that mentoring can be a little confusing or maybe even daunting to people. Like they sometimes think they should have this one person who's like their Yoda, or your Katniss, and you've got, this ongoing coach. I haven't found that to work for me as effectively. And also because very few companies I know of have a successful mentoring program. Some of them try, but they still just haven't quite figured it out. So I'm gonna resort to 3 guidelines that I usually suggest to people. One, it's not going to be this formalized event most of the time. If you have that, good for you. But if you, first of all, stop that expectation, I think you'll be a little relieved to think that that's not the path you need to have. I also like to be just a little bit more strategic about it. So we've all talked about whether you have a game plan of, a VP of customer success, or even if like, I definitely want this to be my next step. I love to kind of set up a skill map for that to say, if I need to be there, then these are the skills I need to develop. Who can mentor me to get those skills? And when I say mentor, I want to be really specific. So the first point is get that skill map. And if some of you on this call are wondering, what does she mean by a skill map? There's some great sources online, and there's a great LinkedIn Learning on this particular subject. So you can get your skill map in place and say, okay, well, I need to work on A, B, and C. I'm going to start reading and learning and listening to podcasts about A. And then when I think I've kind of exhausted the Googleable parts of this, then I will reach out to a mentor, ideally at least 2-3 steps in success beyond where I am, and ask a specific question. I might say, what? My company is moving towards verticalization, and I have been asked which vertical I prefer. This could be a significant decision in my life. So far, I've researched vertical A and B. I'm leaning towards A, and I'd love your advice and anything I may have not considered yet. So I prepare it well. So I'm not coming to them with like a 101. And in the US, that's like the first level of university courses. I don't want to go to them with a 101 question. I want to go to them with a 401 question. That's the senior level in the US. And that means I've thought through and not wasted their time for something I could go find on my own. And I think that's a more likely way for you to experience that. The last thing I'll say is circle back and let them know how it went. I took your advice. I went for this option, and I'm really glad I did, because now, my portfolio is larger. I have more complex connections anyway. So those are my 3 tips. And to me, again, it's in sometimes these specific, sometimes small moments that add up to a circle of mentors that can really influence your personal and professional growth. So if you haven't tried it yet, I encourage you to do so.
That's wonderful. I love that. I love your last point about following up. I know that's one of my favorite things about being a mentor myself to others in the CS community, is just getting those little notes, whether it's on LinkedIn or a text or an email. And it could be the smallest thing, to just be, one thing that helps with, or it could be something big, like they got that promotion, or, they, finally got the confidence to talk to, their boss about something that they're struggling with. And to get that, it's just wonderful. And it's just like how we work with our clients, to get that feedback, to get that, circle back of, how we are building value, to get that as a mentor is great. And then I feel like then you're learning and growing your skills as a mentee and doing that follow up. So I love it. I love those tips. And again, really not just having one mentor, having multiple mentors, like you mentioned, being able to look at what you actually need to grow and develop. And maybe you're really, really early on, you're really junior and you don't know, then that's when it's great to just find someone to kind of be that overarching guide in the career world, but then they can maybe help you to find some of those other mentors in more specialized areas, or once you kind of get more mature into the career. So I think it's a great point that you can have more than one mentor at a time and at many points in your career. So love it. And Abida, what about you? What role have mentors played in your career, and kind of where has that helped you in your growth?
So I think, similar to what Cynthia said, I've had some professional mentoring programs through work, which have been absolutely amazing. But then I've also reached out to people myself on LinkedIn. And one of the things I love about the world of customer success is how open people are to just like having a conversation and being your mentor. So for me, the professional mentoring programs have been great to help me grow in that particular company and helping me kind of progress in that role. But actually finding my own mentors through customer success network, client success, all of these different groups has helped me develop more as a customer success manager, really understand where I want to be in the long term. And kind of the point I made about knowing when to leave, that's actually come from my mentors, because I've been able to have a really open, honest conversation and say, this is what I'm thinking and this is what I'm feeling. I'm not sure if I'm getting all value I can from the company. What do you think I should do? And it's so much easier to have those conversations if the mentor is not from the company, because you're always scared to have that conversation. So if you've got that external perspective, it can help so much to really say, you know what, I think you should make that move, because they really care about you and your growth and not just kind of what the company would like to see in the end.
I love that. Yeah, that's wonderful. I think it is nice to get that outside opinion, because to get, that, because you get some people that can just get that tunnel vision, and they might have other motives or other reasons why they're telling you this, or maybe they don't even realize they are, but they're maybe biased. And so to have that external viewpoint, that just to be able to get their feedback on a situation could really be beneficial outside of your company or even your industry, could be helpful for sure. So absolutely. Lakshmi, do you have anything that you would love to add? I know we kind of prepared for this and chatted. I know you had some good kind of ways that you've looked at, finding your mentors as well.
Yeah. I often say this to my kids and to myself. Imitation is the sincerest form of flattery. So, when you see someone doing something really good, don't be afraid to follow that. So go ahead, find out, understand better, and, adopt that best practice. So you'll often see me stalking everybody's LinkedIn profile. So all the leaders that I like, and I always start off from the first job they went for, understand like how their journey was, look at all the certifications, classes, or the groups that they follow, so that, if I'm not doing something, then I can pick up something from that. And then, people who I'm really inspired by, I do blind outreach. Sometimes it works and sometimes it doesn't. But, like Nabita said, people are really open in the customer success community. So feel free to reach out to anybody that you think, is out there doing a great job.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think that I'm the same way. I do that. I do a lot of LinkedIn investigative stalking work on people as well. And that's actually how I first got connected with Christy Faltruso and found, we were connected through just LinkedIn network, and I'd followed her journey for some time, and then, saw that she posted she was hiring on her team at our prior company. And I was fortunate enough to, have the opportunity to connect with her. But, there were, I'm sure, I can't even imagine how many people were applying for the job, but having the network and having that, passion to be able to connect with her and, really be a big fan of hers, to have that opportunity and to really be able to work with her now in a second company is great. But, she was a mentor to me, whether she knew it or not, to have that. But definitely, to look back and look at that career, their own career, and, kind of see how they got to where they were. Because as we've talked about, everyone has their own individual path, and it's really neat. You can learn a lot from others, and kind of, what they've accomplished and kind of how they've gotten to where they're at. So wonderful. So something else I think is really important, especially with our audience, primarily we're right now looking at, individual contributors, and we have all levels of from, very junior CSMs up to senior, folks like myself that, I've been a leader and I'm back in an individual contributor role. But, I think that it's important for really anyone, but maybe some of our more junior, younger, or newer CSMs to really kind of understand a little bit more about how to get visibility with executive leadership in your company, especially if you are wanting to grow within your company or seeking out that mentorship to kind of see what else is out there. So, what is some advice that you all have when it comes to the best way to really increase that visibility? Nabita, let's start with you.
I think from my perspective, one of the things I've really noticed is asking questions goes such a long way. Senior leadership loves it when, you're inquisitive, you're curious, you want to know more. And anytime you ask a question, they really do want to listen, do want to answer that, and they see kind of a potential in you. So anytime you think of something or you see something, you think, what, I don't understand this, or I have a question about this, actually go ahead and ask that question. If it's on a panel, ask it there. If you can message them privately, do that, because they genuinely do appreciate, especially younger people kind of coming into the business and taking that initiative to showcase they really care and they do want to make a difference. The other thing I try and do is actually, like I said, don't get involved in too many things, but find the right initiatives to be involved in. So one of the things I've done in my current role is we've got a podcast that we do, and I was like, what, I'm going to sign up to that, and I'm going to be a host on there. And actually signing up to that and being a host on that has opened me up to so many opportunities with senior leaders where I get to ask them questions about, where do you see the business going in the future? What do you want to see in young people joining the business? So I get to speak to these senior leaders, but actually get advice from them kind of firsthand that I can apply to my own career.
That's wonderful. I love that. That's great. Yeah. And that's a good piece of advice. Don't raise your hand for everything. Don't always be the yes person or, volunteer too much. But, finding those ways to get involved in those projects or get a little bit more visibility, and, to be able to, again, have opportunity to ask questions of senior leaders or, others that maybe you wouldn't have the opportunity to on a daily basis, that on other cross-functional teams and within other projects. So I love that. That's great. Cynthia, how about you? What's some advice that you have for kind of increasing visibility within, leadership?
Mm-hmm. Well, first I want to acknowledge Nabita's advice. I think that is great advice, especially because the same strategic questions you are asking your customers, in many ways, you are able to ask your executives. So thinking strategically in either case is incredibly useful. The other thing I would add is there are going to be times you need to escalate an issue to an executive, and to communicate that incredibly concisely, and then have supporting documentation and evidence that you've attempted all the other avenues and you're only reaching up when you have something really solid. The other and on the flip side, that's sometimes when it's unpleasant. But you can also do the same thing when you have an idea that maybe you've seen a pattern across customers, something that could be productized, something that could be marketed, something that could leverage one experience for the benefit of more. And any one of those ideas, again, well communicated, I think elevates your brand within your company.
Absolutely. I love that. Yeah, that's great. Instead of just, wanting to get involved in a project or wanting to get that face time in, really bringing those ideas and bringing that feedback to the table, because that really does show that you're invested and there really is, some growth there that you're looking for, and you want to see that for your clients too. You want to continue to grow the company and the product and the experience, not only for yourself but for your clients, and that's, I think, just part of what we do as CSM. So wonderful, I love it. And then lastly, but not least, how about you, Lakshmi, with the, best advice that kind of you have, when it comes to working with executive leadership and to really get that visibility?
Totally agree with what Cynthia and Navita said. To add to that, I think important to stay curious and be proactive. So find those opportunities for yourself. Don't wait for somebody to give them to you. And so, example is in my previous company, we had a big AWS migration project, which is not a core CSM job, but I took it on myself to actually lead that and it's a huge change for our product. And which brought a lot of visibility for me in terms of what happens outside of my role in the company. It helped me learn project management, people management without the authority of managing them. And then it kind of opens up a lot of doors for you in terms of getting to know new people. I've never interacted with developers, and I had so much fun interacting with them. So it's just for you to find those opportunities for yourself. And I do the same in my current role too. We brought in a new recruiter who wasn't familiar with CS. So I designed our screening questions, the project that the CSM needs to do. We're still hiring for more, and I'm totally involved in that process. And in the interim, we didn't have a head of customer experience. So, I volunteered to help lead the team and, follow on metrics and make sure that our OKRs are in place and somebody's tracking those. So, try and find those opportunities for yourself and look at it as you contributing to your organization and the community that you're part of, and not just about yourself. And that's what pushes you, a long way. Because if you're going to put yourself always front and center, it's never going to be, effective. It's about the team. It's about the organization. It's about your customers.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, absolutely. I think it's just pushing yourself kind of out of your comfort zone a little bit. I think that and it can be hard because even if you do want to get involved in other projects or other initiatives, we have a book of business, we have a lot of things that we're doing for our clients, and so sometimes these other things might seem like a distraction or taking away from that, but we really have to look at it as it is something that will not only help us in our career but help our clients, help organization, and it can give us some more skills and opportunities to grow and learn as well. So I think it's great. I think it's again volunteering for things, not waiting for people to bring you something. But if someone does bring you a project or they'd like to, ask you to help with something, then they probably saw something in you that sparked that. So I think, kind of balancing those opportunities as well is important too. Another way to gain visibility with others in leadership. So Wonderful. Well, I was going to ask one more question and then hop into our questions from the chat. We have a bunch of questions coming in. And actually, the last question I was going to ask that I had prepared is one that I'm seeing from our audience. So it works out perfect. So I thought I'll ask that, and then we'll jump in and kind of answer some of the questions that the audience has sent in. So I was going to ask a little bit about like certifications, courses, other programs. I mean, I know we, just had, a wonderful session from Success Coaching. There's a ton of opportunities out there in the customer success space and just in general in the professional development space. And so we did have one of our audience members was asking about certifications and is it really necessary to improve one's career trajectory? And so I think that's a great question. So I'd love to kind of chat about that. And then, if there are programs that you all have participated in, how have you, felt that has helped with your career growth? So Nabita, we'll start with you on this topic on, certifications or programs that you've done.
Just as to start off with, I don't think it's ever necessary to kind of do any particular qualification, which is what I found anyway. But what I have done kind of a few across the board just because I've just thought, this looks interesting. I've got the time for it, so let me see what I can get out of it. And one of the qualifications I've done is actually a coaching qualification. Now, that's something completely different to what I do in terms of my role in customer success, but actually it's helped me learn so much about being a better customer success manager. Because I've learned how to ask good questions. I've learned how to just listen and be in that space rather than thinking of what is my next question going to be, or what should I be thinking about next? It's like being in that moment and taking in every word my customer is saying. So I think it's not just about kind of following the traditional qualifications that people put out there. It's actually thinking about what can I do and what skills have I gained from there that I can apply now to my career.
Absolutely. Yep. I love that. Lakshmi, how about you? I know you have done, you participated in a couple of certification programs, and I think you're in the middle of one right now. So share a little bit about your experience.
Yeah, to me, I think doing a certification is more a validation of your knowledge. So, I'm currently doing both Gainsight and the Success Coaching one. And as I go through them, I'm like, oh yeah, I knew this. And it's important that somebody reiterates that for you through a course, and it's so helpful because sometimes you just forget. And so I do think there's some value in helping yourself professionally by doing these courses. The other thing that I would suggest is there's so much out there in the community, be it CS Insider, Breakout CS, Client Success webinars. I've attended every webinar Christy has put together. Either I would, sign up and watch the recording later or go live. So, and there's huge benefit in signing up for those because, you have tons of knowledge base that you can go back to and refer when you need them. So, always do that. I always follow a lot of leaders on LinkedIn and, watch what they write. And that's super helpful. So I would say Miranda, Christy, Rachel Probin, Irit, like there's just so many people. Jay Nathan was one of the first ones I started with. So yeah, there's tons of people out there. So, follow them, hear what they're saying, and that's super helpful.
Yeah, absolutely. Cynthia, I know those are some of your favorites as well, but what else do you have? Other resources or programs that you've participated in or would recommend that CSMs take a look at?
Well, in addition to Jay Nathan and Christy, of course, absolutely follow them regularly. Bob London has some great strategic questions. I love learning more from him. He's such a great listener and helps us become better listeners. Outside of CS, one of the first things I generally ask a new boss, a new manager, is what are some of their favorite resources, and definitely put them on my list of things to read or listen to. And then in general, whether it's in the CS world or elsewhere, one of the things I think that is very elusive is this phrase executive presence. And oftentimes that can unwittingly hold us back when it's not well defined and when we're not presenting it and showing up that way. So my favorite resource for that is a podcast called The Look and Sound of Leadership by Tony Henschel, and a really great nuggets of information that help elevate your presence both with your customers as well as your management. So those would be my additions to the list already.
Wonderful. I love that. I'm a big podcast person. I love listening to podcasts, and I feel like, I don't know, it's maybe just, it probably isn't the case, but I feel like because I'm listening to it, like, and I have my AirPods in, it's soaking in even more. And like, I might not even really realize what is being heard. And then I'll be in a conversation with a client or something will come up, and then I'll just say something like, oh, I think that was on that podcast. Like it somehow seeped in, but it's true. I mean, there are so many, it doesn't have to just be customer success. There's so many other great resources out there to help. And, I would add, as far as, to the panel or to the audience that asked the question, and to the panelists as well, that, it's definitely not necessary to have a certification, or as we've even, I think, learned to have, a set, major in college or a set degree to do, especially be customer success, but a lot of things. Mm-hmm. But it definitely helps. And I agree to have kind of that validation. I've gone through a program myself, and I felt like the first couple stages, it was like, okay, yeah, I got it. Like, I've been doing this for a while, it was just kind of flowing through the motions, but it was that validation of, okay, I have been doing the right thing, or, oh, these are good questions I'm asking. And then I got to the last couple sections, like, okay, well, this is a little more advanced, still, feeling comfortable, wasn't quite to the imposter syndrome, stage, but definitely felt challenged, and just gave me some more tools to have and resources, different techniques and strategic conversations and discovery and all that. So I think for me, that's where I find certifications or different programs valuable. Personally for me, it's more, coaching and mentorship, and, reading blogs and looking at and listening to podcasts where I find the most value. But I think that the certifications are wonderful. And especially if you are wanting to get into the CS world, and you're coming from a completely different area, then it definitely gives you, some really good, tools to help you. So wonderful. So good. That comes in nice. I was going to ask that question, and someone else asked in the audience. So that was a good transition. So kind of on the same lines, we have Jennifer, who she was asking about advice for a transitioning teacher to the CSM role. And I actually hear this a lot. I know we have kind of as a natural career progression, kind of makes sense to me. But I think that's a great question. So we'll start with you, Cynthia. What advice would you have for someone transitioning, not just from teacher, but from another role that seems very different into customer success manager?
I love this question, because I definitely have mentored a lot of people who are changing paths, and I would grab some advice from our other panelists here. So Lakshmi, when you said how you stalk profiles on LinkedIn, I think that's to me one of the best reasons for LinkedIn. For anybody who's either a first generation professional or who wants to explore another field, without LinkedIn, how would you get that level of information? How would you know which courses to attend, which events to attend, which skills to develop? None of this would really be possible as easily as it is with LinkedIn. So definitely start there and look at what kinds of things were there. The other thing I would do is metrics in any LinkedIn profile are critical, and they're very valuable in customer success. And somebody might say, well, how is a teacher going to have metrics like saved money or saved money or made money? You can still imbue your resume and your LinkedIn profile with metrics like the size of the class, the size of the school. Was it the largest school? Was it the smallest? Does that mean you're good at a small company? Nice for a small company, or you can handle the complexity of a large company. So those metrics still show that you are metric oriented. So those would be two things. Look at LinkedIn profiles, see where the gaps are. And the other thing is add metrics to your resume so people see that you have that perspective in life.
Yeah, that's great advice. Wonderful. Because it's really about that transferable skills and experience to be able to show that you can understand, you have that business acumen to really understand what we talk about when we talk about metrics and KPIs, and they have that in the education world. It's just looked at, maybe it's just different terms, or the goals are different. But we definitely know that there's metrics and things being measured all the time in that area. So wonderful, great advice.
And Krista, I apologize, I forgot to add one more resource.
Yeah.
Once you kind of arrange your resume to be more in line with that, with our profession, you can run it through a really cool tool online called jobscan.co, not .com, .co, and it will compare your resume to a job posting, and you can really identify the gaps that way as well. So, third piece of advice.
Oh, that's awesome. That's wonderful. Yeah, I know there's a lot of different, resources to kind of help with resume, how to write it and everything. But that's really cool to kind of, once you have it, put it out there and see if it aligns. So wonderful. I love that. It's a great tip. So another question that I really like is, and Ash asked this, is, what are the key differentiators between a leader and a manager? So, we're individual contributors. We're right now, that's our role. And even though we have, that most of us have aspirations to continue to grow. But, we're not maybe managing a team. We're not managing a team, but there, as we talked about, there's still ways to be a leader. So what are some things that a CSM or an IC could do to really kind of show that I think, the differentiators between a leader and a manager? Maybe they don't want to be a manager, but they still want to be seen as a leader. So Lakshmi, I'm going to ask you that, so what are some things when you think about the difference between a leader and a manager? What would you lay those out as?
So a leader, you don't have to be people, you don't have to be focused on people management. So all of us are leaders in what we do when we lead our customers to their growth path and build success plans for them. I think we're definitely leading them. And some of those, skills that we have, that we imbibe for our day-to-day customer success work can be for the team as well. So, you could be helping in templatizing some standard emails that need to be sent, or you could be mentoring a junior CSM or an analyst on, their communication skills or analysis skills, anything of that sort that you could be doing without having to directly manage them will set you up as a leader, and always thinking ahead, right? So example, I just started this conversation internally on a voice of a customer program and trying to build more conversation about the customer and bringing the customer into the conversation, and find ways of that sort that would kind of set you on that path, and that would make you the leader and not necessarily your manager.
Wonderful. Yeah, that's all very true. And again, I think that's a good thing to distinguish. I mean, all of you are leaders, being here today. And even though, you might not manage people, you're managing a book of business, you're managing your career, and being, taking this step to participate in this panel is showing that as well. So, well, we are out of time. Like, doesn't that fly by so fast? Yeah. It is unbelievable, like how fast it goes by. And we had a few more questions that were submitted. So we've been keeping track of those. So we'll be sure I'll share those with three of you. So if you want to, kind of share your insight and expertise on that. But, thank you again for sharing, your kind of journey and your expertise and advice in this area, because it is something that is, regardless of where you see your end role or your goal, knowing how to get there, and knowing the resources and who to talk to is very valuable. So thank you so much for being here today and sharing with us.
Thank you so much, Krista. This was a pleasure.
Thank you, everyone. Thank you, Krista, Nabita, Lakshmi, and Cynthia. Really appreciate the insights that you shared. I really enjoyed that session. How about you, Christy?
I mean, obviously, this one is near and dear to my heart. And I have to just say, I'm also a little biased. I love that we had 4 women on this panel talking about career progression, because we need to elevate ourselves. And I love to see that you guys are all taking ownership of it and really putting in the work to make sure that you all end up wherever it is that you want to head. So I really loved the insights. I don't even have too much extra to add to all the advice that you've given, because there's so many great points you all shared today.
Yeah, thank you so much. We really enjoyed it and appreciate all the contributions to the event. So, Christy, owning your own career. Let me ask you this. I love owning your own career, but I'm so grateful for gracious and generous mentors throughout my career. Do you have a mentor that's top of mind that you want to give a shout out?
Absolutely. I mean, I have been blessed to have had many different people, I think, play roles as mentors to me throughout my career trajectory, and the first decade in marketing and then the past 10 in customer success. I think the person who I would like to highlight today is probably Lorna Henry. She's currently the SVP of customer success at Modern Health. And Lorna and I had the privilege of being some of the early customer success professionals over at Bright Edge. And she was just somebody who I gravitated towards as a professional, a woman, somebody who really understood the market, the landscape, and really embraced me as somebody who was new in my customer success career, and always took the time to invest in me, ask great questions, and made sure I was on the right path. And so, we talked earlier about having the right, creating your network and your trusted advisors as a professional. Yeah. And Lorna's always been that for me. And I think whether or not she knows it now, even though we don't talk as often as we did, she still serves as that, as an inspiration to me and somebody who I'll continue to look up to.
That's great. I'll give a shout out to a gentleman named Steve Wellen, who was my boss at Omniture and Adobe. Just a great, so experienced, so much wisdom. And I love the fact that he just took interest in me as a person as well as a professional, and really helped me through those years of going from frontline CSM to an executive, and helped me grow and mature and just improve as a professional. So big shout out to Steve. And so all of us, I think one of the best things we can do is all of us can find somebody to mentor and help shepherd them along their career, and encourage everybody to try to do so.